o'clock. Please silence your cell phones and devices, please. So at 6 o'clock, I call this meeting of Saginaw City Council to order. Please rise for the pledges. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. Please be seated. Next item, 1C is the invocation. I don't see a pastor here. Do I have any volunteers, audience, or on the dais that would like to give the invocation? Don't all go at once. If you don't want to, I'll do it. Please bow your heads. Dear Lord, thank you for bringing us here today. Thank you for this nice, hot Texas weather, and thank you for all the rain. Let us do the best we can for the city that we love so very much, and thank you for all our blessings. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, we are on 1D, audience participation. Any item, posted agenda item, you may speak on that. Please see the city secretary and fill out one of these forms, as somebody already has done. You're allowed to speak on any item that is a posted agenda item. Consent agenda, 2A, action regarding minutes of June 4th, 2B, action regarding ordinance 2024-10, amending chapter 42 of the Health and Sanitation of the City Code. 2C, action ordinance 2024-11, updating recreation center fees and rental forms. 2D, action regarding purchase of street side banner for Longhorn, Old Decatur, and Bailey Boswell. 2E, action regarding chapter 380, development agreement, incentive agreement with Fuel City. 2F, action regarding award for bid for professional audit services. 2G, action regarding award of bid for FM 156 utility relocations. 2H, action regarding the purchase of an alert training kit. Any questions, comments on the consent agenda? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented, please.
I'll second it.
Nick, second. Please cast your vote. Motion passes. Let the record reflect we do have a quorum. Councilmember Bighorse is out this evening. Moving forward, item 3A, employee recognition presentations. What we got, Gabe?
Mayor and Council, we were going to have some recognitions for both police and fire, but for different reasons, we won't have that this evening. I think Pedro's going to do a little update about our recent trip to Denver.
Good idea.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Good afternoon. Again, nice, beautiful Texas weather. We didn't experience that for about a couple of days when we were up to Denver. About 24 of us from Saginaw went, and we represented the city. I think we did a great job. We represented the city proud. We made it a fact that we are the city on the right track. Out of the 20 cities that were there, 10 were selected. Unfortunately, we weren't the top 10, but we were the top 20. So again, in the United States, top 20 this year, top 20 last year. So I think that's a good trend. So hopefully one of these years in the future we'll be top 10. But at least we have this beautiful, lovely two of these All-American City Finalist Awards. So that's good. It's a privilege just to be nominated as a finalist. And I believe we learned many, many things from our fellow finalists and those All-American cities. I know Councilmember Lawson, Danville, North Carolina, I believe, had some great ideas that we're definitely might be implementing here soon. We learned a lot of things with their PEG channels as well, and we made some good friends down in Edinburgh, Texas, and Lamarck, Texas. By the way, Lamarck has a really good band of about kids about this height, so they're really good. Better than some of the high school band people that I knew in high school. And then this one child came up and played Louis Armstrong. I was like, oh no, we're gonna have to cheer for this kid out of sympathy. No, we did not. Mm-hmm. He played really, really good. He might be the reincarnation of Louis Armstrong himself. Mm-hmm. Again, we are very proud that we are top 20. Again, we wish we were the top 10, but hey, we'll get them next time. Thank you.
Thank you, Pedro. So at some point, we're gonna bring the whole delegation in and do a recognition.
That's correct. Yeah, I think maybe our next meeting we'll bring everyone that participated. I believe Pedro and they're working on a video, a kind of a summary of
Right.
our experience. I believe the National Civic League just posted our video relatively recently of our presentation.
Oh,
So
nice. No, it was a great trip, and I appreciate all the folks that went as well. We had a very nice contingent of not just city folks, but citizens as well, so it was fantastic. Nothing else on 3A? All right, moving forward. 4A, then I've got 6:05, for a public hearing. Consideration action regarding a request for the specific use permit to allow an auto rental at 1453 North Saginaw Boulevard. It says Maria. You don't look like Maria.
Maria did not want to join in on the fun today for very good reasons, so these are the requirements. So she sent me. But good afternoon, Mayor and Council. So this item, just to set the setting, is where the Dollar Tree is in the CC's behind the Walmart. And so they are proposing an application for an auto, car, and truck rental. And so I just wanted to share our stance with you first. Our stance is going to be neutral as long as there is some sort of stipulation for parking. Currently, that parking lot is very busy, as some of y'all might know. But they do have a parking lot in the rear, and that one is not very well used. And so as long as the stipulation has that, according to P&Z, that they passed or recommended for approval last Tuesday, they would like 15 spots allocated for that. And so I know that the property manager is here and the applicant is here as well, so I will introduce them so that they can talk a little bit more about the item.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Congratulations on being top 20. Hopefully you get to that top 10. So yeah, what we're looking to do is add a rental car to Saginaw. You don't have any rental car.
We introduced yourself, I'm sorry.
I'm
Introduce your-
sorry. I
Please.
did that last time too. Chris Steves with Avis Budget Group. Sorry about that. We want to have a rental car here in Saginaw. You already have customers that, or residents that use rental car and they just have to travel elsewhere to go do that. We want to bring that convenience to Saginaw. The intention is to use that back corner parking lot that's not used, 15 dedicated spaces. Car washing will not be done on site. There's a car wash about a mile away. We will vacuum clean the cars in the interior on site, but no car washing will be done on site.
Council questions? Nick?
Yeah, Brent, on the way it's written, is just to make sure that they use that back parking lot, and let's hope that it gets really popular and you want to expand, that they'd have to come back and ask. I just want to make sure that it's not one of these things where they, you know, I've been burned before, where they say they'll do something, but it's not documented, so therefore they don't have to follow it.
So you're talking about the limiting to the 15 spaces?
Yeah, 15 spaces, not just the 15, but where the 15 spaces are. It's in that back parking lot.
Yeah, so, and this may be a question for Susie, so it needs to be incorporated in the ordinance. So if it is, yeah, even if it's not presently, if you make the motion, we'll make sure that that those limitations are incorporated into the ordinance. And then they would have to come back, correct?
Right, good. So we can get, it's not added, but we need to make sure it's added.
That's right. Any conditions that you all add to the motion,
Okay.
I will make sure that they're incorporated into the ordinance.
Okay, good.
All right, Susie said car and truck. I'm assuming you mean pickup trucks, not any other type of large trucks.
Correct, yeah, so it'd be Avis, yeah, Avis Budget. Yeah, we call them all cars, but yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds fair. Other questions, council? All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, this is oh, wait, I have one more request to speak. Angel, you want to speak at this point? Come on, please.
Hi, all council. My name is Angel Somkom. I'm a property manager of the shopping center. We have been discussed with Avis for 6 months at least, and our concern as well about parking. We know that this parking lot is very busy, but since we have a vacancy at the end for a long time, and all of their business will be on the back of the properties, which barely have anyone use it. We have more than 50, 70 parkings in the back. So we have agreement with Avis that we put in our list that if the customer bring the car in, they can park temporary in the front just to drop off in a half an hour, and they have to bring the car to the back. We have more than 20 parkings in the back aside for, especially just for them. So I think the use would be work well with the center and what the use of the shopping center.
Good. Any questions for the property manager? Thank you very much. Thank you, ma'am. This is a public hearing, so anyone in the audience who wishes to speak now, you may speak on this item. Seeing none, then at 6:10, I'll take us out of a public hearing, and I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that we approve 4A.
Mr. Mayor, there was a reply form for this one that I handed to you. So if we could just read that
Am I
for the
supposed
record.
to read the reply form or what? I
Yes.
didn't know why you handed these to me. so.
Yes, just for the record, yes.
There were 3 reply forms. One
It's just the first one. Yes.
Okay. So the name is TSCA 253 LP. I assume that's the landlord, or property manager. And they are in favor. This puts active tenant using parking spaces on the rear of the center. That's what it says? Is
Yes.
that good enough?
That's it?
Okay.
It's on the record, yes.
All right. Okay, that's-
Okay.
okay.
Now make a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve 4A as written with the amendment that the cars must be parked in the designated rear parking and exceed no more than 15 cars or trucks.
I'll second.
Is that good? Please cast your votes. Motion passes. Excellent.
Good
Look
job.
forward to working with you.
Thank
Welcome
you.
to Saginaw.
That's right.
All right, so at 6:11, we are at 4B, public hearing. Consideration action regarding a request for a specific use permit to allow event center at 548 South Saginaw Boulevard. Again, it's Susie.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So for this item, the setting is on South Saginaw Boulevard, where the Delicias and the Planet Fitness and all of the shopping center on that side would be. They're requesting an event center, and it's my understanding that the event center would host smaller events such as small weddings, small quinceañeras, corporate events. They also mentioned at the P&Z meeting that there would mostly be on the weekends. On the weekdays, it would most likely just be corporate. P&Z did vote to recommend approval for this, and the property manager for this item is also here, so I will introduce her.
Welcome.
Hello, Council. I'm sorry, I'm nervous.
Okay, just state your name so we,
Yes, please. I'm Elsie Visas and representing Bayrock. That is the name going to be for the event center, and it's going to be hosted at 548 South Saginaw Boulevard. Actually, this is going to be used for an event center where we will be hosting small events like weddings, parties, meetings, and special events and so on. There will be alcohol, but it's going to be a BYOB. Actually, we will have a licensed bartender who will be taking in all the alcohols and be giving out to the people in there. Also, we will have a 24-hour security, and we have an off-duty police officer in there, depending on the people that will be there. Since we want to host about, let's say, from 100 people, we will have at least 1 or 2 police off-duty officers in there. Also, for parking, we do have tons of parking around where people can park, and then, yeah.
council questions?
He answered all mine.
Nick?
So,
I had a few.
So I got one, so Rexel, so she mentioned, one few, I want to make sure that the ordinance actually states that if they're serving alcohol, they have to have a certified.
TABC
TV.
certified bartender.
Yeah, and then second, that they actually have to have a police officer there. My question to you is, for police, she said 1 or 2, I'd like it a little bit more nailed down. So would it be you recommend 1 police officer up to 100 people, 2 police officers up to 200 people?
So what most cities do is the first 100 people require an officer if alcohol's being served.
Yeah.
Anything more than 100 would require 2.
Yeah.
I don't know what the capacity of that building is, but
What is the occupancy of that?
Susie just mentioned, what did you say, Susie?
I think it was 150.
Okay.
It's yeah, they'd require 2 officers if they're serving alcohol. Most cities also do if it's a minor-only event designed for kids, then you'd have the 2 officers there for that as well, just because of
Okay,
potential.
so
to
if it's
get-
a minor-only event, you have to have 2 police officers there.
Yes, sir.
Keep the parents from getting drunk.
Some of those events don't have enough parents at them, so you're
Yeah,
really
I
acting
know.
more as a chaperone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good. So we would actually need to specify this.
So, yes, we can specify all of that, just as a
Yeah.
word of caution. If they receive and she's not saying that they are, but if they receive a TABC license
Yeah.
to actually serve alcohol like a bar or a
Right.
restaurant, state law prevents us from treating them differently than a similar venue that does not serve alcohol. In other
Okay.
words, if alcohol is the trigger, and then they subsequently get a TABC license, everything flowing from that alcohol condition may be unenforceable.
Yeah, we said that would then supersede our,
That's right. But if it's just a licensed bartender and it's BYOB, you can regulate alcohol.
yeah. My concern about a BYOB is you get people carrying beer in, they're going out to their truck drinking
Right.
some shots thing.
Definitely can consume it a lot quicker.
And we did have just, I know all of them, okay, but we did have a few citizens raise some concerns that live back there about the rowdiness. Is there anything in the ordinance that next to as to how long in the night this can run?
Actually, we were thinking till 2 a.m., but we will have to restrict it to 12, I believe.
Mr. Lawson, so at the P&Z meeting, Bessie did mention that there was a noise ordinance that the police department would obviously enforce, as well as code enforcement or anything of that nature, so the noise ordinance would be the only thing. In regards to any time constraints, the city attorney, Bessie, at the time, did say that she wouldn't recommend having anything else since there are other protocols to kind of prevent that from happening, but I don't know what Bryn's interpretation would be on that.
And I'm sorry I wasn't there for P&Z. This is an associate that handles the P&Z meetings. I'm perfectly comfortable with establishing hours of operation and adding those as conditions if that's something the council wants to do.
So we could say midnight if we want to say midnight as opposed to 2
Yeah.
a.m.
Yeah.
I think midnight's, because this could be happening almost every weekend. If you right back there, 2 a.m., it may be a little,
Midnight sounds a little more.
yeah.
Mr. Mayor, if I can add also.
Yes, sir.
A lot of other ordinances that I see, they prohibit the attendees from going out to the vehicles and returning inside, so you get like a one-time pass. You come in, if you leave, you're done, and that keeps people from going back out to the cars and consuming alcohol and then coming back in and becoming intoxicated. The only other thing that I would recommend is anything that confers security, that it actually specifically state a police officer. A security guard in this state doesn't have arrest power, so I would want that person that's working security to be an actual police officer that has the authority to step in and take action when the violation occurs.
That works.
Yes, Mary, please.
This question is for Bryn. So if we saw, say, after a year, not that I'm expecting this to happen, but that it caused a lot of problems and there were a lot of issues, and, you know, I know of one city that did have problems with an event center, would then we be legally allowed to rescind the specific use permit if we had approved it?
I would advise against it. I think the preferred way to do it is to place an expiration date on the SUP that requires renewal. And then that way, the expectation is set up front that you have a limited duration authorization and not an unlimited duration.
Okay.
What would you advise for duration?
It's really, I've seen everything from 1 year to 2 years to 5 years. It really just depends on what level of concern you all have.
So we could do.
I do know those
1
houses
year
are
the
right
first year.
behind there.
We could do 1 year the first year,
Right
and
behind it.
if it's good, then we could do 2 or 5 if.
Yeah, and you could even do it as an automatic renewal, such that if there weren't any problems, you wouldn't schedule the zoning case for reconsideration. But if there were, then you just schedule it, and that way, the owner doesn't have to come back every single year. If everyone agrees, there aren't really any problems.
I like that. That sounds very reasonable.
But, I mean, the one thing about it is, if they end up being a nuisance, they would start getting fined, right? I mean,
Yes,
they
so-
start breaking our violence,
That's right. That's right. We would engage in code enforcement activity
Right.
just like we do in any other business.
Right, so,
What is the term of your lease, your initial lease?
It was in 5 years' time. They gave it to us for
5-year
Yes,
lease?
please.
okay.
Other questions, council? Thank you very much. I do have two of these, I think, you want me to read this? Who wants me to read these? Okay, I will read reply form. First one is from Megan Matthews, an agent for Palomino Southern, the landlord, which is in favor. Then I have one from Janie Huff of 505 South Hampshire. I guess that's right behind them. She's opposed. It is a lengthy one, so bear with me. I live in the section of South Hampshire directly behind the shopping center, and I have safety concerns regarding a special use permit. The area and the shopping center are both very busy with traffic in this area, not to mention when Saginaw Boulevard is backed up, which is frequent, and traffic detours by using South Hampshire. I'm concerned about parking in the center. Another concern is the increase in people looking for trouble. I already have to deal with the apartment complex, game room, and drivers running down the street, running stop signs. I don't believe Saginaw Police Department is large enough to deal with the problems we already have. So thank you. That's Ms. Huff. Thank you, ma'am. Other questions, council? Questions, concerns? This is a public hearing, so anyone from the audience is allowed to speak at this time. If not, Susie, anything else you need to add? No, sir. Okay. Then at 6:22, I'll take us out of a public hearing, and I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that we approve 4B with amendments that it has to be, can only be till 12 a.m. That they must, if they're serving alcohol, they must have at least one police officer up to, was it 100 or 200? And above 200, they have to have 2 police officers.
100.
100.
Okay, 100, that's right.
Yeah, the total capacity is 150.
That's right. Okay, got you. And if it's a minor-only thing and there's alcohol served, they have to have 2 police officers. Was there any other amendments? Did I get them all?
I think so. Is that good?
Unless you want the expiration.
Oh, right.
renewal,
Also, the TABC, if alcohol is served, a TABC certified
Yeah.
bartender.
Yeah,
Okay.
get that.
So
And
you want to put an expiration on it? What are we thinking?
what do y'all think of the expiration?
1 or 2 years? What do y'all,
Do 1 year with an automatic renewal.
1 year with an automatic renewal. Yeah.
okay?
So it'll renew annually unless you all. put
Unless
it
there's an
back
issue.
on.
Yeah.
Correct.
And Mr. Mayor, if we could make sure we add that terminology for police officer, not security guard.
Yeah, police officer, yeah.
Police officers only.
I've got
Okay.
it noted.
Off-duty police officers, okay? That good?
That's good.
All right, do I have a second? Brack will second. You're okay with that, Brent? That makes sense?
Yes, sir.
Is that clear? Okay. Please cast your votes. Motion passes. Congratulations. Welcome to Saginaw. Good luck. You did great. You weren't nervous. You did great. We're not that scary. All right, moving forward. We're at 5A. Consideration action regarding ordinance 2024-12, amending regulation pertaining to Keep Saginaw Beautiful boards in order to reduce the number of regular board members. This is Councilmember St. Clair and Mayor Pro Tem Paul Faleki. So who's taking the lead?
I'll take it.
Okay.
So this item, we were looking at the applicants that were coming in and also looking at the number of times that Keep Saginaw Beautiful was able to make quorum and meet. And they've consistently had 3 people show up to their meetings. So they're missing quorum for a majority of their meetings. And so we felt it was appropriate for us to reduce the size of the board since the interest level isn't up there. And but the people that are there are very interested. And so we wanted to give them an opportunity to be able to meet and make decisions. So that's why we recommended removing it from 7 down to 5.
So if they have 3, they have a quorum, they can do that.
They'll have 3 for the quorum, and hopefully the new membership will start attending, and if it comes up, then we may bring back at a future date to increase the size back to 7. It just depends on what it warrants.
All right. Any questions for Brack or Paul? All right, I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion, we approve ordinance 2024-12, reducing the Saginaw Beautiful Board from 7 to 5.
Brack, second. Please cast your votes. Motion passes. All right, good work, guys. All right, 5B, consideration action regarding ordinance 2024-13, establishing the City Saginaw Traffic Safety Advisory Board. And this is Brack and Paul again.
Okay, so on this one, the original term was set so that the odd places, because it's 2024, they were all 2-year terms, so the odd places were expiring in even years, and even places were expiring in odd years. All of our other boards are set so that odd places expire in odd years, so we wanted to keep that consistent. So rather than make a recommendation to appoint them to a 1-year term, and then have them come back the next year, we wanted to make it a 3-year initial term for the odd places. And that's all we're doing to this ordinance.
Good. Any questions, council? Then I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve 5B as presented.
Have a second? All second? Okay. Please cast your votes. Motion passes. All right. 5C, consideration action regarding appointments to several boards. I think we're going to do them one at a time, but Mr. St. Clair and Mr. Flakey again.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. So I'm going to read off the appointments and for which place they were, and if that was a movement or a new appointment. And I'm going to split it out by each board, and we can motion on each board. So I'm going to start with Animal Shelter Advisory, and I apologize if I butcher a name. For place 2, we recommend appointment of Spencer Miera. He is now as alternate number 1, moving to place 2. Jose Wieland for reappointment to place 4, John Pete for reappointment to place 6, Laura Yandell for reappointment to place 8, Megan Lay moving from alternate number 2 to alternate number 1, and Julie Jacobson as a new appointment to alternate number 2.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve as Brack presented to us.
Second? All second? Cast your votes. This is for Animal Shelter. Motion passed.
All right. Then next, we've got the Board of Adjustment, and we have Eric King moving from alternate number 1 to place 2, Rodney Lee, appointment to place 4, Tammy Southard, appointment to alternate number 1, that's a new appointment, and Cameron Flippo for appointment to alternate number 2, also a new appointment.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve it as Brack has presented it to us.
Second, this is Board of Adjustment. Please cast your votes. Motion passes.
Okay. Then next we have the Planning and Zoning and the Capital Improvements Advisory Committee are in conjunction with that. The ad hoc position is only for the Capital Improvements Advisory Committee, and that will be Sonia Camp as a new appointment. Benjamin Guttery moving from alternate number 1 to place 2. Melinda Julian from alternate number 2 to place 4. Vivian Anderson, appointment to alternate number 1. and Val Visas as appointment to alternate number 2.
I'll entertain a motion for the P and Z.
Mayor, I make a motion, we approve the,
I second.
Please cast your votes. Motion passes P and Z.
Okay. Keep Saginaw Beautiful. Kelly Stewart, reappointment to place 2. Melissa Gorton, moving from place 5 to place 3. Lena Goff, moving from place 6 to place 4. Jeremy Rogers, moving from place 7 to place 5. Lisa Reams, appointment to alternate number 1. And Kevin Kay, appointment to alternate number 2.
Entertain a motion for Keep Saginaw Beautiful.
Mayor, make a motion, we approve the Keep Saginaw Beautiful as presented.
I'll second.
Valerie, second. Please cast your votes. Motion passes for Keep Saginaw Beautiful.
All right, Library Board. We have Kara Callahan moving from alternate number 1 to place number 1. Samuel Kalishaw moving from alternate number 2 to place number 2. Helen Trammell, reappointment to place number 4. Tricia Barbarick, reappointment to place number 6. Tabitha Miera, appointment to alternate number 1. And Benjamin Davila, appointment to alternate number 2.
Entertain a motion for, this is Library Board.
Mayor,
Mayor, make a motion for the library board as approved. I mean, as presented.
I'll second it.
All second? Motion passes for Library Board.
All right, Parks, we've got Charles Tucker moving from alternate number 1 to place number 2. Liz Snow as an appointment to place number 4. Sylvia Rivera, appointment to place number 5. Rhonda Nyberg as a reappointment to place number 6. Ariana Escobar as appointment to alternate number 1. And Lynn Moore as appointment to alternate number 2.
All right, I'll entertain a motion for the Parks Board.
Mayor, make a motion that we approve as presented.
I'll second.
Brack, second. Please cast your votes for the Parks Board. Motion passes.
Okay, this is the last one.
Promise.
This is the Traffic Safety Advisory Board, and so all of these are new appointments because it's a new board. Crystal Philp, appointment to place number 1. Spring Irby, appointment to place number 2. Colby Jones, appointment to place number 3. Clayton Ray, appointment to place number 4. Jimmy Bergdorf, appointment to place number 5. Linda Young, appointment to alternate number 1. And Elias Bolanos for appointment to alternate number 2.
Entertain a motion for the Traffic Safety Board.
Mayor, make a motion we approve as presented.
I'll second.
Brack, second. Please vote for the Traffic Safety Board. Motion passes.
Mayor, while we're discussing this, one of the things we've discussed is taking each one of these boards and taking a council person, a mayor, and assign them to, as a liaison for each one of the boards. So probably have to vote on that at the next meeting, but it's something we want to bring to the forefront.
All right, in the past, we have, and this is coming from our attorney, we've been advised not to do that because we don't want to give the impression that we are guiding the boards. These are supposed to be independent boards. So what are your thoughts on that, Mr. Meredith?
Yeah, it really depends. I mean, I think if we go into it with the understanding that your role is to be a lifeline for information, et cetera, and not to exert influence on the board, because then the board serves no purpose, I think it's fine.
Well, and kind of as an aside, this was more of just a dedicated person that the boards can go to, that they know who to communicate with and that they can feel comfortable communicating with, rather than no requirement to attend every meeting or anything like that. Just having a designated person that's kind of their go-to person if they have questions or whatever.
Did you all talk to any of the chairmen of the councils or the committees? What did they think of that?
I did not.
No, we haven't yet, because they've got to elect their chairmen, so it's something after they have their first meetings in July, we can talk to them about.
Yeah, as long as we work very carefully to make sure the boards are independent, they're autonomous, they're empowered. Council's not directing the boards. We're supposed to appoint and then be hands-off. So as long as we do that, that's fine. I appreciate you're saying about communication. I'm sure sometimes they feel a little on an island out there, as you have experienced probably. So it makes a lot of sense, but as long as Bryn's okay with it, then let's move forward. Let's make that happen. Next council meeting, we can discuss.
In
Look,
general,
there's 7 is there 7 boards? There's
7.
Is there 7 of them? Okay, and there's 7 of us, why couldn't y'all just say, if you need to get hold to somebody, call, da-da-da-da, you know? You know what I'm saying? Just give them something that way. We'd each be for one, and
I would honestly prefer that I was not, because I don't want people to think that the mayor is directing a board. 'Cause I think if I sat in the back, people would think I was directing, and I don't want to give that impression at all. I want to, so, but if y'all want to do it, I'm 100% support that, so, however we want to make it work.
And P and Z, we probably wouldn't need that because they're meeting in public anyway.
yeah, I mean, the boards are there to bring back information to us to get it. And it seems over the last year, with several of the boards, we've struggled. And so trying to figure out exactly how do we help our boards help us, right? So that is some of the things. I can tell you a lot of the boards, I can't tell you what they did in 365 days they were in existence. So to me, it's like, okay, we got this board. It's good in theory. It looks good on paper, but what value are they bringing? You know, what are they, because like we got our, we at the beginning of every year, we put together our work plan, and we got things we want. The boards then, they're really supposed to be the ones to go out there and the experts, if you will, look at stuff and then come back with recommendations and why they came with those recommendations. So that's really what I'm interested in, is how do we help the boards help us? How do we give them more information and give them a lifeline? Because I can tell you there's been a few times I wanted to reach out to the boards to ask them a question, and I had no idea even how to get a hold of them. And I mean, I had to, a couple times I think I had to call Gabe or call Janice to even find out who it was. So I do think there needs to be some type of better glue there to where they don't feel like they're off on an island, and to make absolutely sure that they understand for that board for that year, you know, what's important to us. Like, if an example, and I think I've seen some stuff, but like the animal shelter this year, we got 2 big things. We're looking at the potential new building, but we're also looking at one of the work plans is the streamlining and figuring out how to increase our, you know, our inefficiencies in there to help with these animal problems. So, you know, that's one of those things where we need to make sure that every board understands, okay, this is what the city's focusing on right now.
So would this be some kind of an ordinance change? How would we go about this if we want to do this?
In terms of appointing a liaison, it's up to you whether you want it documented or not. We can do it by ordinance or resolution, or just by motion. Because candidly, we don't amend the ordinance about the board very often, but we may need to we may need to change the liaison somewhat regularly. So do we want to, you know, formally amend it every single time, or do we just want to have, make a motion and then just do it informally?
I think that's what we do. Yeah, informally, yeah.
Okay. Yes, Mary.
I don't have anything against the proposal, but every board does have a staff liaison, correct? And I would think that staff member would be the one that would have the most information and is at the meetings. In case there were any questions, I don't really understand what a board would need to ask a council member about, but maybe there are things they would want to ask. But I just wanted to point out, they really aren't on an island by themselves. They do have staff liaison who has most of the information that they might need, but then it doesn't hurt anything if we want to do that.
Very good point, Mary. Thank you for bringing that up. What do we want to do, council? Do we want to bring this up, put it on the next agenda for the next meeting? What do y'all think? What's the council's pleasure on this?
Maybe we should wait till all of the boards have their chairman and let each board talk about whether or not they think they need that or would like to have that, and then get back to us on that.
Well, I was thinking we push it to the next meeting at least, so hopefully Councilmember Big Horse can be here as well, so we can have a full quorum to discuss this. What does the council think? What does the rest of y'all think?
Since we can't act on it, since it's not on the agenda, let's just put it on the next July 2nd docket.
Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
It's okay.
Good with that? Okay. There you go. We'll do that. Back again. Okay. All right, moving on. We are at 5D, workshop, prioritization of remaining 2021 street bonds. Trenton Tidwell, Kimley Horn. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, Trenton Tidwell with Kimley Horn, City Engineer. Thank you, Keith. Tonight, I'd like to give you an update on the bond Proposition A, which is roadway and streets. Just to be clear from the get-go, our main goal today will be achieving a consensus on how we would like to use the remaining bond balance that is in Prop A, and that balance is $17.8 million. How I hope to get to that consensus is I'm going to recap what was proposed to be in that bond proposition. Then I'll talk about the status of projects that are either under construction or design. And then we'll walk through a list of remaining projects that were either in the proposition originally or that I think are a priority, that we think are a priority moving forward. And ultimately, we have a recommendation that staff recommends, but we'd like input from council on. So this is hard to read, but this is the 6 projects that were originally in Proposition A, street and roadway. They totaled $37,550,000. So the 6 projects are broken into, Knowles is broken into 4 projects, and then there are 2 projects for McRoy Boulevard. Those are phases 3 and 4. Here in a couple slides, I'll introduce the exhibits I have on your desks that help keep track of which part of McRoy we're talking about. To touch on what's under construction right now, so Knowles Phase 1, which is from Park Center on the north side down to the north end of Willow Creek Park, is complete. Construction is complete. We are working with the contractor to do final pay estimates and the final paperwork to close that project out, but all of the punch list items have been addressed. Yes, ma'am.
I have one question. Are they gonna put the light poles in? Y'all got the cement, but the poles aren't. Is that part of it too?
Yes, so
Yes.
part of the contract with the contractor was the foundations and the conduit. So unfortunately, it's actually Encore that puts in the light poles and the wiring.
Okay.
I won't get into,
That explains it.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, 2 people have asked me, that's the only reason I asked, why did they put those there if they're not gonna put the light up? I
Yes,
said,
ma'am.
I'll have to ask that question.
Yeah, luckily, anticipating how difficult it is to get those installed, we proposed the temporary illumination that you see at the roundabout, but we are working diligently with Encore and Michael Demas, so
Okay.
it's a challenge, but we're doing our very best.
So, before you start, I'm trying to read it, I'm trying to match it up, and I think, but
So what you're looking at on your exhibit won't match these first few slides, because these are projects that are either under construction or,
So let me ask this, do you have a sheet anywhere you can give us that, because you said the bond was 37 million. blah, blah, blah.
37.5, yes, sir.
30 what?
37,550,000.
Okay,
yes, sir.
good. Do you have anything that shows me, okay, here's the 37 million, here's the 7 things that was in here, and here's how much of that 37 million each one of those ate up?
Yes, I do have a slide at the end that talks about how much those used. So I worked with Kim with this, and the way we have it broken up is we've actually just allocated from the bond program what was originally designated for each project.
Right.
So the overages, we've actually been able to cover those overages with the Tarrant County match that came from their
Okay.
bond program. So the 17.8 million is exactly how much was set aside for McElroy Phase 3 and Phase 4.
So,
So what's
Sorry.
remaining, and I can show this in a little more detail soon.
so the overall project, all 7 projects,
6 projects.
when they're done, we're going to have a plus of 17.8 million?
No, when the first 4 projects of all of the Knowles projects are delivered, we have a remaining balance of 17.8 million
4 of the 7 then?
for the 6.
Okay. And so what you're doing now is saying, are you now saying that the other 3, we're not going to be able to do them within that 17.5 million?
So just to be clear, there's 6 projects.
Oh, okay, I thought you said 7.
Yeah,
1,
it's
2,
okay.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Where's the 7th one?
Industrial wasn't part of
Oh,
the
no.
plan.
There's 7 on that first page too.
I just can't.
Sorry, ignore this exhibit. We're not, don't look at the exhibit yet. Give me 2 more
Okay.
slides and I'll show you exactly what you're looking for.
If you hand us a piece of paper, we're going to
I
obsess
know.
over it, so.
Please don't look at the back.
Okay.
I hid some pictures on the back. Don't look at it yet. No? Okay. No problem. I'm happy to, uh-oh. There we go. Okay. Of those 6 projects, the other 2 that are in progress are Knowles Phase 2 and 3 and the roundabout. So just to give you an update, Knowles Phase 2, which is from McRoy up to the north end of the park, is substantially complete. What that means is people are able to drive on it, but we don't have all of the irrigation, the sodding, the striping, the signs in yet. What that does is it allows traffic to get going, but we don't officially stop time on the contractor.
Except for when the kids move the cones.
Yeah. Yeah.
They keep moving the cones over there.
The Phase 3, which is south of McRoy down to Longhorn, they are currently working on the water utility relocations as well as the sanitary sewer. So once they get those complete, we'll start the paving work, and that'll probably take the rest of 2024 into 2025. That's when they will move over to the intersection of McRoy and Knowles, which is the roundabout. That will start spring of 2025. We're hoping that'll last until basically the end of summer 2025.
So with the exception of the roundabout, the other part of Phase 3 that on Longhorn will be done like before next spring? It'll be done in this calendar year?
That's our plan.
Okay,
That's the
that's
plan.
great. All right.
Yep.
I was thinking before the farmer's market starts in 2025. That was my,
So with the roundabout, we gonna shut down that whole intersection, or are they gonna have a workaround for that?
The plan is to shut down the entire intersection. We luckily were able to center that overlap with the summer, just because talking with Cleet over at EMS ISD, he requested to try to minimize impacts to the bus routes. So we're going to get as much of that in the summer as possible, and the contractor's been willing to do that. And we've also been very vocal in talking about the Christmas parade and the routes there, so.
You
we're
can
do-
make us a little alleyway to go through there, you know.
Yeah, we're doing everything in our power to, Randy's been very vocal about this.
That's
To
right.
get that, to accommodate for that.
Yeah, you all mess up the Christmas parade, you might get a chunk of coal in your stocking.
That's right.
Santa won't give me any.
And a
rain.
lot of, and a lot of upset people.
Yep. Okay, so this is kind of what you're looking for, Nikki. I put a big check next to the projects that are either already finished or they are in construction right now. Those last 2 projects that are highlighted, which is McRoy Phase 3 and 4, which are the red and the yellow sections on your exhibit, those 2 projects were listed in the bond program, and there is $17.8 million left to build those. Now, the question of, is that enough to build them? No, it's not enough to build both of them. So what we'd like to discuss today is, because of the fact that it's not enough to build both of them, and then the additional discussion of, is Phase 4 still a higher priority than, say, Phase 2A, which is the green section? That's where we wanted to bring a recommendation to council and get a consensus on which projects are we really focusing on with this remaining fund balance, or bond issuance balance.
yeah, and we have not sold those bonds yet, right? That's what I didn't think so.
So
No.
So you're saying Is phase 4 very important? That's what you're telling us, right?
He's asking that question.
Yes, that's what I mean, yes.
Yeah, I would just say from staff and from council, I think, so what I'm about to do is because McRoy had 2 projects listed in the bond program, because Phase 2A and the pink Phase 1 have terrible pavement conditions, what we'd like to do right now is walk through McRoy, phase by phase. I'll go somewhat quickly.
Question before you move on to for the red section 4, is that something we could do, because 2 big chunks of that property is not developed now? If somebody decides they want to put something there, can we make a requirement that they help with the infrastructure?
I'll let Gabe answer that.
Yeah, so it would have to be determined based on proportionality whether they would participate.
Well, that part right there is all 18-wheelers that tear it up, isn't it?
I think he's talking about
Oh,
Phase
4.
4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well,
if
he
you'll
said,
recall,
okay.
in fact, I think Councilmember Junkersfeld brought this up maybe 6 months ago. Trent will probably get into this, but the western section of McElroy is in pretty good
It is.
condition. Now, you cross the boulevard, and Trent will go into this, it's in very poor
Yes.
condition. So the general thought is, instead of doing the western section 4, hold off on that and look at east of the boulevard.
Yeah. But the idea that a developer may play a role is on the table, I would say.
It's possible, but it'd be
But
dependent on the
I
proportionality.
can't,
I couldn't
yeah.
guarantee you.
Right. There's also a water line along Old Decatur and McRoy that we would like to loop, and I know that Randy and I have discussed wanting the developer to build that, and so if you may not get both if you're asking them to contribute to the infrastructure.
So my question is, since this was a bond, what did we spell out for McRoy in the bond specifically?
So the way bond propositions work for roadway bonds is that it's eligible for any street project. When voters voted on the actual proposition, it said for street improvements and the dollar amount. We outlined phasing based on information at the time. But if the question or the concern is we can't allocate in other phases, this bond council reviews the proposition, and essentially could go to any street project in the city.
Good. So I got two comments. One is to make sure if we do, if we specify something in a bond election and we don't do it, one, legally, I'd need to hear from Brent as to exactly, what we can't do. And then second, if we choose not to do it for that, we need to have very good documented reasons to our citizens, because they're the ones that voted on this, as to why this now is more important than the other. So that's the only 2 things I'll bring up. Is definitely, I would want to go back to this. We want to be very clear to our citizens, we're now diverting this money to do this part because it has become more important. And then 2, make absolutely sure that from a legal standpoint, we're above ground.
So just a couple of things, but the bond council, Bryn would not necessarily be directly involved, but the bond attorneys.
Okay, yeah, when I say
But-
Brent, just
Yeah,
whoever the.
understand. We can get you the information.
Yeah.
And then Trent may mention this as well, but you'll recall the pavement condition assessment.
Yeah.
We conducted a little while ago, and that's also driving this discussion.
Yeah. And other than that, were you just gonna start with 1, work your way through to 4, and then tell us where you all recommend? And before we go on with that, we got 17.8 million. If we did what we originally thought we were gonna do with the bond, and we did that, how much over would we be? How much more other than that 17.8 million would it cost us to?
We would need, if you take phase 4 and phase 3, it'd be 20 million, so we'd be 2.2 million short.
So 20
Would be
million?
how much short?
2.2 million short, it'd be 20.
Oh, that's what I got it highlighted, short. Is that what
Yeah.
you're talking about, that
Yeah.
2.8 million there? Is
No,
that the shortage?
No, sir. That's for North Old Decatur. On the top left, it says phase 4 total is 7 million, phase 3 total is 13 million. So
Yeah.
add those together, that'd be 20 million.
Okay.
We're at 17.8 remaining balance, and so that would be 2.2 million short.
Okay.
Mary, please.
So we have more than enough to do 2A.
Yes, ma'am.
And would that include all of the railroad tracks?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Well, remember, we don't own the railroad tracks. The railroads have to do that.
They have to fix that part of it.
No,
How does that
Saginaw
work?
would be responsible for the upgrades to the panels and to the gate arms,
Okay.
if you're improving the roadway.
Okay.
But I can talk about that when I get to that
Oh,
phase,
yeah.
if that's okay. Yes, ma'am. Anyone, there's also extra handouts here, because this graphic is about to not be on the screen, so I know from our meeting with staff and with my coworkers, it's hard to keep track of the phasing. So that's why I have a hard copy here. Okay, let's start from left to right. And so I'm going to talk through McRoy, and then I also have a slide for all of the other projects that are on the CIP or that have been discussed recently, just so we can have a comprehensive look and make a decision.
So you're going to start at phase 4 and work your way backwards to 1?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So phase 4, like we've discussed, was listed on the list of likely projects in the bond program. Something I do want to point out that will become a theme here is there is no TxDOT coordination here, there is no railroad coordination, and there is, thanks to the new development, there is less right-of-way that we need to acquire, so the right-of-way needed here is very little, and the franchise impacts are relatively minimal. So overall, this is a fairly straightforward project. We also took a big chunk out of this project with the Knowles projects. Whenever we did the roundabout, we added in the culvert crossing that goes, that's in Willow Creek Park, and those are box culverts. That's what I'm saying will be installed next spring and summer. And so this project has become shorter and more straightforward, but like everyone said, the PCI rate, or the roadway condition, is in good shape, relatively good shape in this section.
And how many citizens would this, so if the PCI is in good shape, then the impact to the citizens, an improved impact to citizens, would be low?
Yes. I do. So I did not list the PCIs on every slide. I do have them. One thing I just want to say about the PCI ratings is it's usually intuitive to address the worst streets, and I think that is what makes logical sense. It's the way you should approach pavement management is counterintuitive. You want to catch roads before they get bad, because the roads that are already bad, they've kind of leveled out. They are what they are. But usually you want to invest your dollars. That's what we want to focus the SUMP program on, is addressing roads before they get bad.
That tool that tool that we brought in did it goes to predict the sweet spot, right? That
Yep.
when the
'Cause
biggest
it's like an
bang for your
S-curve,
buck.
and it kind of dives off
Right.
around like 60. It goes down to 30 real
Right.
quick. So that's why I didn't necessarily rank and prioritize these by pavement condition, but I do have that information if we want to look at it.
Do you have a prediction of how long this could go before we started getting to where it would be over, let's say in the red, yellow, green?
So this was at an 81 PCI, which was
Okay.
one of the highest in this corridor, so I don't necessarily have a prediction, especially because I don't know how many trucks go through here. I think it's relatively low, but I'll just say I'm less concerned about this section.
So you know we're going to, or at least I'm going to ask you to rank these because you're the expert. So you're going to have to tell me that with your recommendation, everything you know,
Yeah.
which one should we work on number 1 and which one should we work on number 4?
Right.
So,
The worst thing about number 4, in my opinion, is
Yeah.
people parking on the side of the road to get their kids.
yeah.
That's the worst thing.
And
'Cause the
so
road itself is
I met
pretty
with
good.
staff a couple weeks ago when I delivered the McRoy conceptual design, which I'll talk about here in a second. And we do have a recommendation of what we want to attack first, second,
Okay.
and third. Okay, phase 3, so this also was listed in the bond program as a recommended roadway. Like I just said, we did do a conceptual design for this portion recently. When we did that, what we looked at was the drainage systems. We outlined those and preliminarily sized them. We looked at the profile, we collected survey, and we did a geotechnical analysis to help us understand the pavement section. And so what that did was it gave us a higher level of confidence in our OPCC number, which is 13 million, and that's for final design and for construction. Another exercise we ran during that conceptual design was we laid out in detail how to get from start design, like 60% design, to get to construction, so we can understand when this could actually start. We think the earliest we would be able to start this would be early 2026. A lot of that is dependent on franchise utility relocations. There is right-of-way to acquire as well, but we've kind of started looking at what that would take and drawing up those easements or right-of-way already. So that, to me, is not as much on the critical path.
Do you have the PCI on level on
Yes,
3?
it is 58.
58, okay.
Yep,
Would that be considered low, medium, or?
medium.
That's what I was thinking.
I'm going to shock you with a couple of these numbers here in a second. As a reminder, we did change the cross-section of this roadway, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, to a municipal urban section, with the idea being that it would be a lot more walkable and provide connectivity and slow traffic down. So it is a 2-lane divided and some on the west side, and a 3-lane for most of the corridor.
Yeah, in the bond, it actually, I think it mentioned, like it's been 3 or 4 years since I read that thing, it actually had where you was putting some parking spaces down through there, right?
Yes, it
Yeah.
did. I think
We're not doing that now.
we took a lot of those out during our detailed conceptual design recently. There was a couple spots that we have earmarked as where they could go.
Yeah.
But I mean, once you look at it in detail, most of these facilities, especially the city facilities, they have adequate parking. The only place that really has been needing and utilizing it was the Saginaw Cemetery, but the right-of-way is extremely tight right there. And so it was a challenge to keep that parking.
You want to take any of that right away, do you?
No, I do not want to, no. This is just a quick graphic that we did a grant application in October of last year on behalf of Saginaw to try to get funding for this section. And one thing that really stood out to me, although we didn't receive the funding, was we showed them how connected this corridor was. So I don't need to read off all of the destinations that we're working on, like the library and the senior center, the rec center, stuff like that. But also there's what we call generators. And so there's neighborhoods that are directly adjacent with sidewalk infrastructure already. We have the senior living townhomes, the senior rehabilitation center. I know EMS daycare, Weldon Halfley, I think they take trips to the library and rec center. And then we also have the elementary school. And so I think it's just all of these generators and destinations would just make this project a really project that Saginaw can be proud of because of how cool this project would be. Just wanted to mention that because we had that in our grant application. Okay, so on your exhibit, we're going to go to the green section, which includes the signal at 287, Business 287 Main Street, and then goes to Spring Hollow. So this is what we split phase 2 into 2A and 2B, mainly to address the pavement condition and the railroad tracks on the west side. So the pavement condition for this section is 35. So obviously, we're all very aware of the rough transitions at the railroad. The pavement condition, as I said, is pretty bad. I do want to mention Randy has lined up that this summer, the county and your crews will be doing the best they can to, I think, are you milling and overlaying, or are you removing asphalt? Yeah, mill and overlaying at the railroad transition. So that should at least make a temporary improvement.
So you said the PCI was 55 or 65?
35.
35? That
Yes.
would make it a high, wouldn't it? Or would it?
That would make it one of the lowest, like 3.
Lowest, yeah.
You can drive through there.
So I mean, I do agree that I think everyone thinks that this is a high priority, as it should be. So because this has become a higher priority, I would say somewhat recent, not recently, but since we realized phase 4 may not be as high of a priority, We added this to our conceptual design, actually. So we actually collected survey, did geotech, did the whole conceptual design for this as well. In that detailed schedule, like I talked about, when we laid it out, because of all the railroad coordination, the reviews that they need to do, the agreements you have to have before they look at it and then after they look at it, and then there's also a 1-year delay of getting their materials, like their railroad gate arms and their panels. The earliest we could start this would be the end of 2027. Yeah, so it's a 3-year process. And I double and triple checked that timeline because it didn't sound right to me. But that's based on our experience, not only here, but in other cities as well.
The picture we're looking at here, when you say 2, is that both 2A and 2B or just 2A?
On this graphic or on your
No, I'm
colored
talking
one?
about this one.
This one, the green is 2A, the
Okay,
blue is 2B.
So what we're talking about is, on my paper, is just 2A.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And that's from Business 287, for folks who don't have this, to Spring Hollow,
Okay. Gotcha.
which is the west side street of that. I think it's Mariposa.
Very sure. Okay, gotcha. Well, the
Yes.
one thing about it, the sooner we get started on it, the sooner it gets done. It ain't as if we wait a year, it's
Right.
gonna all of a sudden get, you know.
Yes,
Mary,
ma'am.
Mary, you have a question?
Yeah, Randy, whatever that temporary thing you said you might do, has that been done before? But has it been done on the railroad tracks at that location? What you said you were gonna do, milling,
No, we haven't done it, and it's not on the railroad track.
but it's approaching
It's
them?
25 foot from the center of the tracks where we can begin.
Okay.
So all
Because
that
I just
access-
wanted to make sure it's not something we've already done, because
No.
whatever we have done hasn't
No.
hasn't been,
Bridge.
hasn't been very effective. So this would be more. Okay.
Yeah, the most recent mill and overlays that I think are pretty public would be North Knolls, like you mentioned, and then was the McRoy section further east of here. I think that was a mill and overlay.
So we're not gonna be able to mill and overlay between the two sets of tracks?
Now, that's within,
Railroad won't allow us in there.
so what happens if there forms a big hole there? Somebody has to fill it up.
Well, I think whenever we start the process of working with them to do, we'll work in there with them at the same time when they go to do the panels. As we've
Right.
done in other areas before.
Okay.
I don't know, Trent, we probably talk to the railroad and the railroads, because it'd be both of them, UP and Burlington Northern.
Right. Yeah, that's the other challenge is there's both parties here, which we dealt with at the overpass as well. But yeah, you would need to get, for the final construction, you would need to get the original agreement, which allows them to look at all of your designs and review them, and you go back and forth. And then the C&M agreement is ultimately construction and maintenance, what will allow you to work in the right of way and redo the
So
pavement.
that's not gonna make it till 2027.
No.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
The roughest part on that road is the crossing of the panels. You know, on each side of the track, you have a panel, and they rock, and they're just rough. So I think, and they have come to us and talked to us about, at one point, they were gonna get in there and try to do something with it, but so far today, they haven't been very responsive to our request to look at that again. So I think it's already on their radar, but I think if we're gonna get in there and do something, we need to work together so we can fix it all at one time. They can fix their stuff, we can fix our stuff.
Absolutely. The total price that, if you add all of it, is 10.65 million?
For phase 2A, yes. And Randy asked this question whenever we were talking about this previously. It is shocking to see that 2A is so much shorter, but almost comparatively the same magnitude as phase 3. The reason for that, there's several reasons, but one of them is that in this project, we have the signal at 287. We decide, that's always been included on the east side of the projects. We decided to keep it that way. Once we looked at the geotech analysis, because there's so many more trucks, which you can tell by the beat-up pavement on the east side, that side actually needs 11-inch pavement. And when you look at the geotech analysis and the amount of trucks for Phase 3, the west side, it only needs 7-inch pavement for the same design life. So that is a massive impact to costs.
Yeah, but there's a lot more people uses that part.
The east side.
2A.
The other aspects are just the improvements to the railroads. When you do this, the city pays for all of the additional railroad gate arms, and they pay for the panels, although the railroad would construct it. But that's that lead time and the additional cost you're seeing in this.
Railroad gets up.
Railroad will say they were there before the road was.
And they were. They've been there way longer than we were.
They don't care what we say anyhow.
That's right, yeah.
All the laws are in their favor, so yeah. All right, keep going. Yeah.
Okay, McElroy Phase 2B is from Spring Hollow Drive to Levon. The PCI rating on this section is 64. It's not as consistent because we did do a pulverize and overlay at the end of 2020, and I believe that's it's on the eastern side, like from Sansom over to Levon. This is on the CIP. The cost to construct this on its ultimate cross-section would be $10.8 million.
Do you have a rough estimate if you did what you did back in 2020 to the rest of that section?
For like the portion between Spring Hollow and Sansom?
Yeah.
I don't. So the way we usually tag team that is Randy's handles all of the mill and overlays and the pulverize and overlays with the county. Lately, we get a lot more back and forth and input based off the drive program and the PCIs of which streets we should do. But I know it comes out of street maintenance fund, but I don't ever see those costs.
So it's basically just the material cost is what ours is. I met with the county last week. We went over there on site and they made some suggestions to fix, which would be section 1.
Yeah, you're talking about section 1, the pink from Levon to the east.
And their suggestion was to go in there and do a 3-inch mill and overlay with a spot repair on the one area the base failure is in, which is, they'll bring their reclaiming machine over, drop it down, mill it down, fill that stuff out, repair the base, the subgrade, put that back in, and then mill and overlay with a 3-inch lift rather than a normal 2 is what you usually use. And 3 will support that truck traffic that we've got. And they felt very confident that would get us 3 to 5 years before we have any.
So
How many years?
3 to 5.
it was mentioned before that a lot of this rutting and stuff comes from the trucks sitting on there. Is there a way we can kind of get the truck traffic to go the other way on McElroy and avoid the tracks or something, and make a truck route or something? Because, I mean, you see these heavy grain haulers and stuff sitting there, and that's obviously what's doing the damage.
I don't know of a way to reroute them besides letting it get worse. I mean, that might be the only way.
Yeah, I'd be very, 2B, that's what I was aiming at you. What would be the cost savings if we just did the back down to base, fix the base, and put a 3-inch overlay on it?
So 2B actually, like I was saying earlier, is 64 PCI. So
Yeah.
I don't,
It's in pretty good shape.
it's in decent shape.
So we looked at that as well. The county suggested we go from Levon to Spring Hollow and
Yeah.
go down through there with their milling machine, or not the
Yeah.
milling machine, but the reclaimer, and
Yeah.
fix all those spots that are failing, just the base is
Yeah.
failing in those areas. Do the same thing and do spot repairs, and the rest of that road just hold up.
Yeah. Now, I thought in Area 1, we were talking about when they come in and do that new development, they were even going to move the road.
Yeah.
So I would be very hesitant to invest any of the citizens' tax dollars on a road that we may be moving.
That's why we held up originally. That was supposed to have been done already, and we held up from the
Yeah.
first group that was looking at that property over there.
Yeah.
We didn't want to spend any money because they were going to go in there and tear it out, so.
Right.
So if
That
we-
still is the plan, that what I have shown on the screen is that the developer plans to reconstruct McRoy and realign it with Western Center on the east side.
Right.
The recent updates is that their timeline is pushing back, that they're willing to build that. That's not a huge surprise. I've heard of that throughout DFW just with the interest rates in the market right now. So that's, the fact that they're pushing back their timeline is what's prompting staff, Randy and staff, to talk with the county about what can we do, hate to use the word, as a Band-Aid in this section, because the PCI in section 1 is 12.
Seriously?
It's the worst, yeah. And I mean, you can tell when you're out there. And I mean, honestly, I know Randy talked with the county about doing a mill and overlay. And when you look at it, it needs much, much more than a mill and overlay. But a mill and overlay would get you by, like he said, for 3 to 5 years.
So as far, have we used up all the money that we're gonna get from the county, or do we have more coming for the other phases of Knowles?
As far as the matching?
Yeah.
Matching money?
I don't believe we've used all of it. I'll defer to Kim on that discussion.
Did you ever give us a cost for phase one?
I don't have a cost for phase 1. Randy had requested that from the county. I don't have a cost for ultimate construction for phase 1. What I wanted to get was a cost for the mill and overlay, the temporary. That would not come from the bond funds, though, to be clear. That would come from the street maintenance, was what staff and I had discussed. Did you ever get that cost back from him?
I talked to Doug today, he hadn't got it.
He hadn't got it,
He said
okay.
he had it to me in the morning.
Well, you would ballpark it in the 200,000 to 300,000
kinda
max? Okay.
How much did we roughly think it'd be, or just guess?
Just in the, he knows that about material-wise, about 200,000.
Oh,
Is there a question back to Kim on the,
So the estimated balance of street maintenance is about 1.5 million. So it certainly, if the mill and overlay was even a little more than that, it could accommodate that if that's your choice to do that. Based on the estimates, we'll have about 1.2 million that's unallocated from the Tarrant County reimbursement of phase 1 of Knowles. We've used part of that for the overage on phases 1 or phase 2 and 3. And then we also used part of that money for the preliminary design of McElroy Phase 3 in preparation of the grant application.
so are there any strings attached to that money? Can we use it for other, and we got it approved for McElroy, we can use it for, or we got it approved for Knowles, we can use it for McElroy as well? How does that work?
There's no, I mean, we would want to use it for roads, obviously,
but-
but there's no restrictions. No,
Okay,
sir.
so
It
which
was
road
just-
is really up to us?
Yes, sir.
So we don't have any additional coming for the other phases?
No, it was just for, we just had our agreement for Knowles Phase 1, and we're getting a little bit less than what we were pledged, just because they won't reimburse us for the landscaping and the irrigation, and that was part of the original project.
There are other Tarrant County bond funds that are planned. They're much smaller, I believe, but it's, right now, we have them designated towards North Old Decatur, from Bailey Boswell to the city limits, which I'm actually about to talk about as well. But if we want to answer any remaining questions about McRoy, then what I'll do is I'll walk through the remaining projects that are on the CIP, and just so that you have those numbers too, and make sure that those aren't a higher priority. Yes.
Yeah, this may actually be a question for Kim. So if we decided we wanted to go with one of these, say 2A, which is my hope, and it didn't start till 2027, when would we actually go to market for the bonds for that?
We could get started on design. We would want to sell it in phases if it's really going to take that long. We don't want to be sitting on that paying principal and interest. So we would phase it depending on the timing, but we would sell enough for design first.
So it would be
Probably.
something that could end up being more favorable to us from an interest rate perspective. If interest rates drop in 2026, 2027, then the cost could come in a little cheaper than they would if we were to start it right now. Absolutely. That's kind of my point.
Correct.
So,
I have to ask what is probably an ignorant question. Did you tell us what CPI or PCI stands for?
It's pavement condition index.
Okay.
So it's on
So
a,
the low number is bad.
low is bad.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if I was looking at this and having to make a decision, or couldn't fix them all, I mean, I'm looking at, I would definitely think that 2A has, definitely would be one of the top choice, would be the top choice. And then I look at the others and okay, I might could get 4 done, because you said 1, it has a very low, but you said we'd do that under our regular budget. So definitely would want to go ahead and do that, because it's, 12, that's pretty bad.
Right.
But we don't want to, we want to spend as least amount as we can on 1, because we don't want to spend a huge amount of money and then tear the road out. So we just want to fix it back. And to me, that 3 to 5 years, that's that sweet spot.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it'd be, I would think, 2A, 4, and 1, and 1 under just regular maintenance. Could we get 2A and 4 done?
I've got a couple other slides I want to go through
Okay.
before we start piecing this together. Sorry, I love talking roads. All right, so these projects are, all of these projects are on the CIP, but I just want to give you quick fun facts about them. North Old Decatur, I just talked about, it's from Bailey Boswell to the city limits, so just past that church. We are at 90% design on North Old Decatur right now. It's been sitting for 2 to 3 years because of a funding gap. So like I said, there's funding in this project already from developer contribution, from Tarrant County, and what was the third one? COs, I believe. And so although the total for this project is 5.3 million, we have about half of that funded. So I think our opinion when we discussed it the other week is that this just seems like a project that would be really great to get across the finish line, because that funding gap just keeps growing larger and larger. There is development on the north end of Saginaw, the square, I believe, that this would really help unlock. There's drainage issues, and then connectivity with sidewalks. Sidewalks, is that what you're saying? So, want to bring that up. Another corridor that's been top of mind lately is Basswood. A side update besides this, we are actually advertising the improvements that y'all approved and were requested from the citizens currently. So that means contractors are looking at those plans. We worked with staff to get those out as quickly as possible. So we're hoping to actually open bids on that next Thursday and bring a contract to council on July 2nd. So the goal is that the pavement would be reconstructed before school starts, like the panels for the raised crosswalk and the sidewalk ramps, which is going to be the fastest turnaround we've ever pulled off. We'll see if contractors can do it. But the other aspects that have been talked about on Basswood are the intersections. So when I say intersections, I'm talking Grand Central and High Country, the four-way stops right now. Those have been on the CIP plan for the last few years, and we've updated those costs every year. And right now, total design and construction, they're at $4.1 million. Recently, we've also talked about the sidewalk gaps. They start about where that transmission line is, so halfway up the corridor, all the way down to Blue Mountain Road. When we look at filling all those gaps, we're looking at $700,000. And I have those two asterisks on the page because we are looking at other grant funding opportunities, and we have about 5, and these 2 would be really great candidates for those. And so
What is HSIP?
Highway Safety Improvement Program.
Is that a state thing?
It's a federal funded project.
Okay.
So I'll talk more about it if y'all would like at the CIP update that I'm hoping to do on July 2nd. But basically, it looks at all of the severe injury crashes or death-related crashes in your city, and you can put together applications for sidewalk gaps, signal improvements, roundabouts, flashing signs, stuff like that. The only issue would be, you know, anything federal related. It takes a few years to actually get it designed and built. But we're gonna do our best to hopefully get some more funding that way. Last one I'll mention on here is the corridor for Basswood. We've talked about it and looked at going from 6 lanes to 4 lanes. When we looked at the traffic, and 4 lanes will manage the traffic, but recently there's been discussions on, do we remove the outside lane to make more room for pedestrians? Do we remove the inside lane to get the pavement further away from the trees because it's causing issues with pavement failures? We need a little more time to really nail down what's the best fit option for that. But if we were to remove the inside lane and rebuild those left turn lanes, it would cost $3.3 million.
Or wouldn't you just cut the trees down?
Or we cut the trees down. Yeah?
Yeah, it'd be a heck of a lot cheaper.
Okay, I have only one more slide, I promise. One more slide about projects. The industrial, so this is actually on your exhibit as well. It's on the bottom right. I ran out of color, so I was forced to use orange. Orange is phase 1 of industrial. The PCI for industrial phase 1 is 38. The total cost to do this is $5.2 million. Industrial phase 2 is the blue section, which is west of the tracks between Main and the tracks. Its total cost was $4.6 million. And its PCI was a little bit better than phase 1. It's around 50.
Is the color right on the map? Does 2 not go all the way to the boulevard?
2 does not go all the way to the boulevard because that Longhorn, or that industrial section has already been rebuilt.
You go up to the railroad, to the track? No, there's the tracks. Tracks are right there. Okay. So. I know where it is, yeah, I don't remember.
Okay, and then
I didn't even see that.
the last,
Yeah, I've seen that.
the last, I don't know if it's a project, but luxury that came up during the conceptual design of McRoy Phase 3 and Phase 2A is the idea of burying the overhead franchise utilities in this section between Knowles and Business Phase 7, Main Street. On the back of your exhibit, we did put together relatively quick renderings of what it could look like without these overhead. It does look better.
Oh, man, looks a lot better.
When I talked to people who have paid for this before, it is pricey. And so I would really need, honestly, another 6 to 8 meetings with every franchise, not every, but a total of 6 or 8 meetings with every franchise utility company to understand what kind of lines they have running through here. Because if it's a main line, it's a lot more expensive than if it's just a service line. But based on a few projects that my coworkers have done in other cities around Tarrant County, I would estimate this to be a ballpark of $2.8 million to bury the overhead utilities.
Does that include at the intersection of Saginaw Boulevard and McElroy or not?
And we would start probably just west of there.
Okay, because that's where I think the worst overhead lines are, is that intersection. That looks
Well, a lot of
awful.
that is the span wire signal as well that kind of muddies it up.
Well, there's a lot.
But there's a lot of, yes, yeah.
I know years ago there was some, because I remember somebody talking about their city was doing this, and somehow they got some federal funding to remove some.
I haven't heard of, I can
Might
look,
wanna
I can
look
ask
into
around, but I haven't heard of people getting federal funding for it. Usually, a lot of the federal funding right now is safety targeted, so removing, it's a Vision Zero, removing deaths, injuries, stuff like that.
Well, if they don't crash into the telephone poles.
Yeah, there you go.
I can definitely ask around.
Some of those telephone poles are just almost leaning.
Yeah.
That's a big safety issue.
I think there was a death on Bailey Boswell related to the franchise utilities. Okay. I think, oh yeah, there's my slide. Sorry, audience. There's the pretty pictures. Okay. Nikki, this is where you're leading to. So just to summarize, when staff and I met a couple of weeks ago, we talked through this and we kind of pieced together what we would recommend. And so unfortunately, we can't do all the roads, but where we ended up was we wanted to tackle Phase 3, design and construction, start the final design as soon as possible for McElroy Phase 2A because it is a very high priority, and then get North Old Decatur across the finish line. This adds up to almost 17 million, which would leave a margin or balance of 850,000 roughly. And so I think, like I've iterated, Phase 3 design and construction is closer to hand with the ability to get that under construction in 26. It's also just with all the city facilities coming in, with the library and the senior center, aquatic rec center, all that, it just seems like it'd be a really great branding corridor for the city. And then Phase 2A with its condition issues, I think getting that final design started as soon as possible is a very high priority so that it can be shovel ready, and hopefully other funding mechanisms we'd be searching for. And like I said, North Old Decatur, just with the drainage, lack of sidewalks, new developments going on in that area, and that we're halfway there with the funding, that it would take less money to actually get that across the finish line. But open to discussion, would love to hear y'all's thoughts.
So just one thing I'd like to add, and talked with Randy and Trent, but everything you're seeing that's not on this list, ultimately, we don't have capacity. We certainly don't have that capacity in our streets maintenance fund, so it likely would be a bond proposition to go to voters, rebuild industrial. Trent mentioned, I think the phasing makes sense with what we're proposing. North Old Decatur has kind of been hanging out there for a while, but it is a priority. And we're very grateful to Commissioner Ramirez for participating because of the pedestrian. So it include a sidewalk for students who would be going to Wayside. So
Yeah, I mean, I agree that I think McElroy Phase 3, we promised that to the voters, and I think the city center is huge. We've been talking about that for many, many years. We're already building these beautiful new facilities on this road. It would make sense for the road to match these facilities and traffic flow as well. As far as Old Decatur, I think that's what we really need to do. We've talked about it forever. And I think with the safety issues and the growth, and that it's already partially funded from other sources, that makes it a very appealing. Phase 2, again, 2A, sorry. I think everybody would agree that that's an awful stretch. How we can fix it, yeah. It makes sense to at least do the design work that gets it started. And then we have time, that buys us some time to start working on funding sources for that as well. So, and this makes a lot of sense to me. But what does the rest of the council think?
Yeah,
And let me start over here. Start with Mary.
Yes, 2A is really important, but at least getting that design part done, I think this is a good compromise and a good use of the funds.
Mr. St. Clair?
I'd like for us to figure out how to make 2A happen. That's just my honest opinion. But I understand we gotta phase it out right, and if going forward with Phase 3 or number 3, if that one, but I just don't want to ignore 2A on the hope that we can eventually find funding for it. And so that's my only hang up.
So what's the impact?
Hold on, Nikki. Let's go to Valerie. Oh, keep going.
I'm good with the recommendations here.
You good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Nikki, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out what's the citizen impact, how much between McElroy Phase 3 McElroy Phase 3 and McElroy Phase 2A.
I mean, as far as like traffic? or how
Yeah,
many
traffic,
cars?
yeah, biggest impact for the citizens.
That's a good question. Do we have traffic counts on either one of those?
We,
Or can we get those?
we do have recent traffic counts. Keith actually just ordered citywide traffic counts. We can look at that. I would say, and actually Keith, if you have that, maybe we could just pull it up, if that's not too much to ask, because
If
I
we
want
got
to
it.
I want to reach a decision tonight.
No, if we got it, let's see it. Yeah.
While he's doing that, I would say, besides just actual traffic volume, I think our opinion, there may be cars driving through there, but are they stopping are there businesses and locations that are generating and being destinations as much on the east side as that Phase 3? So it may be a higher volume of trucks or higher volume of cars, but maybe not necessarily a qualitative difference.
So we only got a few roads that takes us from one side of Saginaw to the other, and this is one of the,
Yep.
this is one of the main routes. So if the road's in really bad shape, then I'm gonna go out and hit 35 and spend my money at Alliance instead of coming over here and eating at restaurants on this side of town. That's the impact.
Keith is going to ask me to decode this.
So it's one of the comments I had. Keith put it in one of his weekly reports, the traffic counts on Old Decatur, and they've skyrocketed. And that justifies finishing that section north of Decatur.
Look, let's take a look real quick here. So McElroy, I see the intersection there down at the bottom.
Right here.
McElroy and Business 287 shows 42,633.
Okay, and then you've got east-west and north-south too.
So you've got, go back down, Keith. So at business, at Main Street in Macro, you've got about 4,000 to 4,500 cars going west along Phase 3. If you're at Old Decatur, it matches. It's between 4,000 and 4,200. So we're talking about 4,000 to 4,500 cars a day driving Phase 3 and Phase 4. If you're east of the tracks, you're looking at closer to 52,000, or 5,200 volumes. So about 1,000 more cars a day. Can you go to where it looks at industrial or ethanol 56 and
There. Whoa. Right here.
so that's higher, right there, we're closer to 6,000 cars, on the west side. A lot of those are trucks. When we looked at the daily truck on the east side, it was, I believe, 600 trucks. And when you looked, west of Main Street, it was like 20 trucks.
So if you take the trucks out, then what would be
The Delta,
yeah.
looks like it's about 1,000.
But how would you be able
Depends
to
on
take
which
the
end you
trucks
look at.
Well, I was just looking at citizens, so
Gotcha.
trying to compare apples and apples.
I
That's why I
gotcha.
was wanting to remove them from the data.
But another thing to keep in mind here too is the idea with Phase, and I'm sorry I sound like I'm selling Phase 2, 3, but I want both. There are other modes of transportation we're really trying to promote here as well, like biking and walking for those citizens that aren't captured in that data.
I get chewed out on a regular basis from my daughter because we don't have walking paths to get us from one side of Saginaw to the other, so.
And this is a side note, but I'm working on mapping all those paths like you requested on Google Maps. That's a little side hobby of mine right now.
All right, Paul, we haven't heard from you.
I just made the comment about
Old Decatur.
Old Decatur with the traffic counts going way up.
Okay.
I mean, that intersection of Bailey Boswell and Old Decatur is, I mean, the traffic's unbelievable, and then the road condition is really bad. And with all that traffic going into the square, we're gonna definitely need to get that done.
Yeah. All right, I think we've got a pretty good consensus on North Old Decatur.
Yeah. Yes.
So that one, check. Yes, let's do it. All right, what about Phase 3 versus Phase 2A.
What'd you say?
The city of Fort Worth still in play to,
I haven't touched base with them in a while because we haven't had funding, but another, I would say, benefit of North Old Decatur is that Fort Worth has expressed an interest to partner with us, because their city limits go from our city limits to about 500 feet further north. They have expressed an interest to donate funds and extend our project further north.
Okay.
And that would provide, because our limits don't go all the way to the side streets of Twin Mills and whatever the east side is there, so they would make that connection. And I think that's why Tarrant County is interested in that project, because it has some regional connectivity. Everyone's playing along, so that's why they've been willing to put money towards it.
Okay, so I think North Old Decatur, yes, thumbs up. All right. Now let's talk 3 versus 2A. Thoughts on that? That seems to be, well, or are there any others that council would like us to consider? We don't have to limit it to 3 and 2A.
I mean, if we could get 2A done, I would prioritize that over Phase 3, but because of the delays and what it's gonna be with the railroads and everything, it makes no sense to tie up the funding with that at this point.
But if we started the design work, that would start the negotiations or discussions with the railroad, right? So that would start the clock, hopefully.
You
It
said
would start about
2027
the
before we can
3-year
even start.
It would start the 3-year clock, basically, to get to construction.
Okay.
And the first step is getting an agreement with them, so
That
they'll
would get that
review
going,
your
and then at that
plans.
time, we would look for money, which might be a bond, might be a bond election, but, okay. Go, Mary, please.
Remember, the railroad gave us trouble with the bridge,
Oh, Lord, yes.
even though it was already planned out.
I know, you're right. Mary, go ahead.
I definitely feel like if 2A was part of a bond election, it would pass with flying colors, just like our animal shelter would pass with flying colors.
That's a good point. Very good point. All right, other thought, oh, go ahead. You gonna say something?
No, I was just gonna say, but it's natural speed bumps right now anyway, so.
Well, ugh. Hey, so, remind me, the Old Decatur, that includes sidewalks as well, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because that's a big complaint I've got from the school and from other folks. It's like no sidewalks, kids walking the wayside, so even more to do.
There's a
that.
lot of drainage improvements, sidewalks on both sides, and then a lot of turn lanes for the developments.
Okay, all right, sorry to, so back to 3 and 2A. Gabe, do you have something you want to say?
I was just going to say, after a couple notes. One, when we worked with the bond committee in 2020, the idea, and Brack may remember this, is that we bring propositions to voters that could reasonably be delivered within 5 years. So we're on pace. I know you all get a lot of complaints about streets, as staff does. We can't tear up every single street in the city all at once. When we reconstruct Knowles, we get complaints, so, bear with us. The good news is, I think, once these big projects are in front of you, are either designed or identified, if we were to go to voters again, we're really looking at major thoroughfares that need major attention. It'd be industrial and sections of McElroy. So we made I know everybody complains about streets, but we've made a tremendous amount of progress. I think as soon as Knowles is open, everyone wants a brand new street. They just don't want to have to suffer through the construction to get there. So that's really, if it was something for the council to consider in the future, we'd be looking at industrial and the construction dollars for McElroy.
No, and that's a good point about timing from bond election to actual implementation, or, and that, when we did Bailey Boswell and the bridge, we ran into that because it took so long to get to the bridge. We made a strategic error. We said we'd start on the east end, we should have started on the west end. We didn't realize it was gonna take so darn long, and that really made it more complicated than it probably should have been, but.
Well, and I think too, we mentioned, and Randy has a good relationship with the county, but some of this mill and overlay work should hold for a while until we can come back with ultimate reconstruction.
And so we can do it, let's do a hypothetical. So we do Old Decatur, we do design on 2A, and we do design and construction on phase 3, we can do mill and overlay 2A in the interim, right? Right, Captain Saginaw? And that can be done pretty soon? Question mark?
He's trying to line it up for summer.
So,
Not all of 2A, right? Just at the tracks.
Yeah, between the tracks.
Right.
okay. And the worst parts, essentially?
Yeah.
To buy us more time. And we can do the same thing on 2B as well, on some spots as well, to buy us time. Okay.
It did sound like, though, that the railroad had reached out to us, so it's on their radar. So we do have a chance that we could work with them and do maybe some overlay even in between them.
Yeah, they have some drainage work they're wanting to do over on Burlington. I met over there with them. They're wanting to remove a bridge over there and put in some cans. In fact, the cans are laying over there in the ditch right now, and I think they even contacted Trenton and them down there to talk to them about the drainage through there. And at that time, I mentioned to them, and they were gonna go down there and look at it and see, as well as the one out on East Bailey Boswell by the mayor's house, coming westbound.
Yeah.
That crossing right there is, I mean, you
You can catch air.
yeah.
You can definitely catch some air.
So they're aware of those two crossings being really in need of some repair. But the railroad moves slow, so.
One other thing, I was reading one of the notes from the Eagle Mountain Saginaw, and they said they were actually going to invest money, time into kids walking from school to their houses and stuff, and they implied that they were going to look at sidewalks and stuff. So somebody needs to reach out to them, and if we can, like that sidewalk put in there on Basswood. I mean, you know.
We saw some information from them a few years ago, and all of the improvements were outside of Saginaw. But
This I seen was just a month ago.
okay,
Yeah, so.
we can definitely reach back out.
And don't underestimate your citizens who came here and talked.
Right.
You know, we've now got that safety committee, bend their ears. We talked about have that committee go off and talk. I mean, the citizens are in Highland Station, you know, have them push for that.
Gabe, do you have any information on that?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Basswood, the improvements we mentioned, that may also be a bond proposition that residents could consider. You might recall this is probably 2 years ago or 3 years ago, the school district put together a list of like hotspot areas where there wasn't sidewalk connectivity, and we really only had, I think, one section, which is Old Decatur. So, do you recall, Randy, any others?
Yeah, I
No,
thought it was.
That was the hot spot.
I thought it was Basswood too. Did they mention Basswood on that? Remember that thing they did?
From the high school.
Yeah,
From the high, yeah, so we're reviewing that now.
Okay.
Their desire, I think, is, once that project on 156 is done, which they're over there, I'm sure y'all are aware, finally moved in and started making some of the final pieces come together. Once that's done, the school's intention is to tie that sidewalk together over there on their part. They're gonna do that.
Okay, that's great. All right, so, council, do we have an agreement on this? Do we have any issues? I think everybody's agreed on Old Decatur. Do we have any issues with this recommendation from the staff moving forward? Any concerns? Any thoughts? Are we good with this?
Make it happen.
Do we need to vote? Do we need to vote on this? I don't think we need to vote. You got direction, Trenton?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anything else you want to add to us while you got us here?
Yes, so luckily this slide applies because we did reach a consensus. My plan is to finish updating my CIP. I've worked on all of the other sections besides roadway, so I'm going to meet with Kim and Randy later this week. And the goal would be to present that updated CIP reflecting what we've all just concluded on July 2nd. So,
Can you tell by what CIP is?
Capital Improvement Program. I've been testing on a lot of acronyms today. Thank you all for meeting July 2nd, honestly, because it's helping that project and to get these updates. And then, obviously, we just decided to do design for Phase 3 and Phase 2A, so I'll work diligently to get those contracts in front of you.
Sounds good. Thank you, Trenton.
Thank you.
Trenton, you
Appreciate
didn't
it.
tell them about the fire chief taking you on.
Oh, goodness. I might send y'all some chiropractor bills. So Chief Spears was asking about how tall are those raised crosswalks that we're putting in on Basswood and at the roundabout. And I said, well, there's several of them across 35 by that middle school. If you want to go drive them, just go out there. And he said, well, what day are you available? And I said, okay. And so Randy, myself, and the fire chief went out, and I've never hit a speed bump going 30 miles an hour, or a raised crosswalk, I should say, going 30 miles, but I have now in a fire truck. So, and while we're flying through the roof, he says, it's not that bad.
Nice. All right, thank you, Trenton. Thank you, Randy. All right, moving forward, 5E, approval of temporary staffing adjustments. City Manager Gabriel.
Mayor and council, I have 3 recommendations for you. You'll recall our discussions. We're not proposing to add any permanent positions in this upcoming budget year, so we have a few pinch points to add some staff position on a temporary basis, a couple years using one-time funds. So one of them is to get Janice some help with records requests, which doesn't slow at all. As well as other administrative things like pretty much everything, garage sale permits, solicitor permits, alcohol permits, liens, yeah. So idea would be to get a part-time person to help Janice out. Another position, we spoke with, Lee and I met with Jose. So they have 3 students that are part of the summer student apprentice program. Shameless plug for FFA. Was proud to be a member of FFA when I was in high school. I got my American degree. Great program. So the 3 students that are working at the shelter are FFA members. Jose said they're workers, and they have done well with the animals. So they are done, I believe, the first week of August. Is that correct? High school kids, they head back to school, and they need help. So want to get them a part-time position that can help with cleanup after the 3 FFA students, high school kids, are finished. Last position would be to bump a part-time position to full-time in Public Works. It's a nice situation to find ourselves in. So the new work order system is working well with us working the kinks out. We want to try to be able to close out work orders as soon as we can, or get people an answer. So, if someone wants their street reconstructed, obviously we can't do that tomorrow. So the current part-time position would be full-time to assist with work orders and any other special projects Randy has. Additionally, we have a full-time position in Public Works. Maria, who wasn't here this evening, she has training in grants management. So she, I think Randy sent her to a workshop on grants management and would like to utilize her a day a week working on grant stuff, which I think we already had some things come to the Parks Board, right, that she had found?
Yes, she's worked on some already.
Yeah.
But it's not just park stuff, citywide.
It'd be citywide.
Anybody that has a grant that they want her to look into.
Yeah. So that's the summary. Happy to answer any questions. The intent is just to provide some relief. And again, these are not permanent additions. They'd be on a temporary basis using one-time funds. In a couple years, we may be able to, through our normal budgeting process, add these positions as necessary.
So, because I see in here, you give a one-year total budget and 2-year total. Are you proposing 2 years or 1 year? What are we proposing?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like to fill the positions, it would be helpful to tell someone, hey, this position's available for at least 2 years. So it may help with the applicant pool. But, yeah.
Council questions?
I don't have any questions, but I have a little thing. I know these departments need people, and in fact, I'm pretty sure almost every department we have needs somebody. And every department that we have now in the city is doing a great job for our citizens, and several of the departments don't get credit for what they're doing, such as Public Works, unless something breaks or goes crazy, and then they realize how much we do for our citizens. But the two most used departments in our city for entertainment, learning, and having fun is the library and the rec center. And during the summer months, they both serve a lot more citizens because school is out and summer is their fun time for the kids and everything at the pool, and the seniors are still at home for a while longer at the rec center. That makes them the busiest departments for 3 months of the year, correct?
That's correct, but they
Okay.
also have student apprentices.
No, I understand that, but let me finish.
library.
The reason I'm asking is because a couple people that attend the rec center quite a bit to work out came to me and said that it is insanely busy on Wednesdays and every day with the kids, which is understandable, but mostly on Wednesdays, and there are usually like 2 people working in the rec center. So during the summer months, and apparently since they don't have extra employees to take care of extra folks for 3 months, is there any way we could get them like a couple more employees to help around and maybe move someone that's not really busy or something to help them out? Because our business is to provide the best customer service to all of our citizens, and so if they're the busiest during just those 3 months, I think it would make sense if we look at that a little bit closer, that situation. And I do remember you and Melanie saying that the library and the rec center, they don't get overtime, but they get comp time. I'm thinking of the employees, comp time. And I'm pretty sure that their comp time's probably really high right now. Those 3 months, I don't know exactly, and I haven't asked. I guess that Keith would probably know that more than I would, but would it be more cost-effective to add just summer help on a temporary basis, just to give them more options for some of the extra hours to be covered during the summer? And it might help give some flexibility for the staff to use some of their comp time. And then,
So I'll address that if I could. It's exactly what we do. We have a part-timer that's out on leave, medical-related leave. So because of that vacancy, Melanie was able to get a temporary person that I believe started yesterday, right? Or started
Okay.
today. So
so that will relieve some of that?
that should relieve.
At the rec center?
At the rec.
Okay, okay.
The good news on the busyness, and if no one's been over to the rec center recently, they're slammed. Our
Oh, I know.
camp numbers are back to like pre-COVID. Of course, the seniors are there, but fingers crossed, next year we'll be moving to the new facility.
Right.
But yeah, absolutely understand.
Well, the other thing is, well, I have 2 other things to say. I don't know how y'all do your comp time, and, I mean, I know how you do it, but I don't know how y'all keep track of it. And I didn't know if there was a way that you could look at all the employees' comp time, and those employees that have a bunch, and I only know this because the last time we were talking about comp time, and so a lot of employees have a lot of comp time that they probably never will get to use. I mean, I'm sure she says she keeps it on the books and everything, but if they have that much comp time, I would think that would be a tool to say that we need more help in that
I
department.
completely agree. So comp time and overtime, in fact, had a discussion with an employee in the rec center about this. It's determined by the federal government, the Fair Labor Standards Act, so.
Okay. There's nothing you could do about that?
Yeah, I mean, the designation, whether someone gets overtime or comp time, is pretty well set. So,
All right. Well, anyway, I was just kind of,
yeah, I completely agree. And seasonally, I mean, they're
right.
very busy.
Okay. And the other thing I wanted to check on, I guess this would be for Melanie. Last year, the council voted for the lifeguards to start at $15 an hour. And so did they start at 15, and did that help us getting more of them hired? I mean, I know the lifeguards have started, and apparently they're doing a good job because every time you drive by there, it's packed.
It just took us a while to get them because we had people that they hadn't even certified.
Uh-huh.
So some of the kids didn't show up or they failed.
Right.
So it took us a while. We're fully staffed on summer camp and for customer service and lifeguards.
And so we did what y'all did what the council asked to do at 15 an hour?
Some people have 15, some have 17, some have 12, depending on what the year's work. So everybody gets offered a letter and they agree to it and they're getting paid.
Okay, because I was just thinking, we want to make sure that they work the whole season, that it's worth it to them,
We have, I think, 29 lifeguards
Sounds good.
They have 4 lifeguards, and then you have 10 customer service.
Okay. Well, I know our city is growing and everybody's busy. It's summertime and people are looking for something local to do. The library, the rec center, and the pool are the most popular 3 months out of the year. And so if we're considering adding staff, we need to make sure that we have adequate staff in all the departments to serve all of our citizens. That's my concern.
Sure, and again,
So-
seasonally, those departments staff up for season.
They do.
Yeah.
They're just low right now. Is that what it is?
Sorry?
They're kind of low right now. Is that what you're saying this summer? On the, like the rec help and,
Yeah, the rec center was an unusual circumstance with the one part-timer who's gonna be out for an indefinite amount of time, but we staff up, I mean, Melanie and
Then
Vicky.
2 days we staffed it too, with the person that has a set schedule. Like I said, and she started today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is 40 hours.
okay. All righty. Thank you.
So, just so I make sure, you got 3 types of employees. You got full-time, part-time, and seasonal, okay? So, just so, if you don't know off the top of your head, that's okay, but for the rec center, how many full-time employees do we have? Yeah,
Not counting the senior center, recreation, we have 2 full-time.
2 full-time. And
And
part-time?
not counting me, Ashton would be the 3rd, but she's being used at the senior center,
Well, don't
She's
you
at the
senior
where?
center?
at the senior center.
Yeah, so you got 2, because the other one's over at the senior center.
Correct.
And how about part-time?
Oh, 5.
Okay, now how many seasonals do we bring in, not counting the swimming pool, just for the rec center? 1.
So day camp and
Oh, how many do we have?
20?
We'll have 1 seasonal right now at the rec center.
And how many are we supposed to have? I mean, it's a thing,
Not usually supposed to have any at the rec center.
oh, okay.
We have the seasonal people for the summer camp. You have 13 people that are the summer camp counselors that handle the kids. That's what's
Okay. So, again, not counting the swimming pool, because it's got its own little thing, and from my understanding, we're good there. But so for the rec center, we actually don't have any seasonal resources that comes in to help the rec center to work us over that 3-month or 4-month.
The day camp.
Just the one that's, in
So
a
now you have 2.5.
subbing and helping out for the one part-time that can't be there.
So now you have 2 full-time and 1 part-time there, right?
No.
Correct.
No, we've got another, what is there? Okay. There's
Okay, so
2
can somebody get me and send it to us? I mean, and I don't want to know what I want to know what we're actually budgeted for. So how many full-time, how many part-time, and how many seasonal?
5 part-time, which are like the rec center.
Yeah, you said 2 full-time, 5 part-time. Now we have.
1 seasonal.
We don't have anybody scheduled for seasonal for the rec center.
That's what I'm saying. Okay.
Well, but how many day camp?
The seasonal at the rec center are just for the summer camp.
Right.
Okay, so the summer camp, ain't that considered part of the rec center?
Correct.
I think that was just a misunderstanding of what
Okay,
you were
gotcha.
counting as seasonal.
So that's
But there
5?
are more staff at the rec center seasonally for summer camp.
So summer camp, there are 13.
Okay, gotcha, thank you.
5 part-time, which are basically
Yeah,
the attendants
gotcha.
for the facility, 2 full-time. We have in the past, although we didn't this year, we asked the departments for the student apprentice who they want. Last year, we had 1.
Last year we had 1, yeah.
In rec. This year, they didn't request it. So we used the summer help. They're limited to 120, what is it, 120 days to plug in the gap.
Okay.
So that's why, like Jose in Animal Services has 3. Ellen, you have 3? 2? Where else do we have summer students? Oh, 1 communication. So yeah, we use that to plug in the gaps where people.
Yeah, to fill that, so we do account for that. That's what I'm trying to
For
say.
the seasonal boom.
For the
Yeah,
season.
The busy
So
time.
for the rec center, including the summer camp, we ramp up 13 people through the summer, 13 resources through the summer to cover.
And those 13 are
kids.
specific to
Yeah.
summer
Yeah.
camp.
And then we got the swimming, the lifeguards and stuff.
The lifeguards are separate.
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, that's right. And then there are seasonal employees that are guards and customer service for the pool.
Okay, good. The only other thing I had, and this is specifically, is Kim, what we're talking about doing here from a financial standpoint, is it all kosher?
I haven't seen the revenues versus the expenses just because they were they were focused on getting it staffed to what it needs to be, but we are going to look at fees for the aquatic center.
No, I was talking, I'm sorry, I switched gears on you. I was talking about these one-time, what we originally started talking about, the resources.
The 5E, the actual subject of the 5E
Yeah.
action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
5E.
we have fund balance.
This agenda item, Kim, that we're talking about right now. So
Okay.
We have fund balance plus sales tax collections above what we budgeted.
It would be, and if it's just temporary, you could use the one-time. It wouldn't be able to be absorbed and fund for ongoing and fund what the priority is, which is the salary plan. We're still
I
working.
do have one question. Who at the rec center is in charge of like the counselors that are with the day camp and the lifeguards and stuff? Is there somebody separate for that? Or is that Keith or Gabe? Who is that?
It's a tag team effort of Jason and Vicky.
It's who?
Jason and Vicky, the two full-time.
So
We
they're
have,
in-
we have a camp, we have a camp director and assistant camp director, which both of those are seasonal. But who is over the summer camp? Is that the question?
Uh-huh.
It would be Jason and Vicky.
And so if we only have 2 full-time employees over there, who's running stuff when Jason and Vicky are taking care of that? I'm trying to figure out why these people are telling me that it looks like there's nobody over there that's taking care of stuff. And I'm sure that Vicky and Jason are probably busy with the camp and everything else. So who's watching the desk and all that
You've got
stuff when that's happening?
five part-time.
The
right?
part-timers,
Yeah.
the rec.
The part-times are,
If they're scheduled at that time, yes.
if they're scheduled at that
Yeah,
time?
we have people that come in throughout, we have one person that comes in the morning, we have someone that relieves them kind of in the midday, and then also in the evening, we have some, and weekends. We always have we almost always have at least one part-time person there.
At the desk?
And if it's, personal reason where they couldn't be there for whatever reason,
Uh-huh.
you would only have the two full-time, or myself.
Okay.
This is going to open up for grants as well with this program, so, I mean, this could, just with the grants we could receive, could definitely outweigh what we're spending on this.
Yeah, so let's circle back and concentrate on what's on the agenda here. So these staffing adjustments, the part-time animal shelter tech, part-time Oakland records coordinator, and part-time to full-time public works admin coordinator on a 1 or 2 year temporary basis. That's the question on the table. Are we good with that proposal? Is it going to be a 1 year, 2 year? Are you proposing 2 years, Gabe? Because you list both. What are we?
Yeah, like I mentioned, I think within 2 years' time, we may come back to the council and either mid-year or through the annual budget process, add these positions back. That's a thought.
Okay. And so Kim, that they're one-time fees, so we've got the money from, we clarify the money funding sources, please?
It would be fund balance.
Okay.
So if we go over the one time, we go 2 years, then where does the money come from?
That's correct. It'd still be fund balance, which,
Okay. So Kim, how many times can we play that game before we get in trouble?
Well, right now, fund balance looks really good. Looking forward, I mean, $200,000 over 2 years sounds like a lot, but it just depends. I mean, I can't predict what sales tax is going to do. We typically have vacancy savings that would probably more than cover that in any given year. Yeah.
And the point is, that we need these positions. We've been talking about something, an open records coordinator to help Janice out for quite a while. And it's high time we come through with that. And I've been in the animal shelter, and I know they always are really hurting for folks with so many, unfortunately, so many animals. And I like the idea to use Maria's time a little more valuably, doing the grants and other things that she's well-suited for. So that sounds like a good proposal. Any other questions, concerns, council? We sort of beat this into the ground. If not, I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I make the motion we approve item 5E for the temporary staffing adjustment.
I second it.
Nick, second, okay. Please cast your votes.
Come on.
Motion passes. Thank y'all. All right, excellent, good stuff. And executive session is not required, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mayor, I make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second.
Brack, second. Please cast your votes. Motion passed at 8:09. We are adjourned. Thank y'all.